his shield there.
And we're live.
We are. Yes. I really don't know what the heck's going on. I do know that this is the most packed show that we have ever had. So
Did you say
welcome.
Did somebody say
no.
hacked? Oh my
Definitely
God.
not hacked. And no, you're not Paul Lind tonight, Don Shanahan. I don't
Why
care
does my
what
seat
David
feel a
tried to
little
put you on.
stiffer?
Wow. All right. So anyway,
Hey, you
this
asked
is
for Paul Lind. You're gonna get Paul Lind.
no.
Sorry.
For the record, I did not ask for Paul Lind.
David
But you did ask for this because you allowed all of us on the show at the same time.
Yeah. And Mike Crowley's ghost.
Mike Crowley is looking good.
Yeah.
I'm letting someone borrow my laptop, so I don't have a
Did someone say
webcam.
lap?
So
Wow.
There we go.
I'm working on. You'll see. I'm making an image.
Okay.
Oh,
Perfect. All right. Now
paint a
we
picture for us,
have
baby.
You work for Image?
Oh,
Annie.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Hey, gang.
man.
Remember when I said we're not going to be talking over everybody tonight? We have a show to do.
What?
Welcome,
Wait.
Annie Banks.
Did somebody say showtime?
Hello.
Okay, this might be actually the shortest live stream I've ever done and the most popular. No.
He's gonna
Okay,
kick us all
so
off.
anyway, we are premiering HawkTalk, as you can see in the logo right by my head. I can't point properly. There it is. Yes, it's Disney Plus / Marvel have unleashed yet another miniseries on us on TV, and we're going to be talking about it. That is Hawkeye, starring Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld. The continuing adventures of Clint Barton and now one Ms. Kate Bishop. The first 2 episodes dropped this morning, and I am thrilled beyond belief to have the most populous live stream possibly on the planet talking about this TV show right now. Do a quick round of introductions. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We also have Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree and 25 Years Later. We have Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of the Spoiler Room podcast, David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson and 25 Years Later, and Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast, Elliot Serrano of Shaken Not Heard, a James Bond fan cast, right? Is that right? Okay, got it. Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web. And joining us for the first time tonight, we have Will Johnson, the other half of the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast. So welcome, and bro, apparently, yes.
Bro,
William Hawkeye Johnson. So Will, as the newest member, as the newest Earth's Mightiest Critic, it falls to you to give the synopsis of just smash them together. Tell us about Hawkeye 1 and 2. Try and stay spoiler
smash them
free.
together?
Okay, no, Paul Lind.
Okay.
No.
What I gotta deal with?
You got to go 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, no, because bathroom breaks were before the show started. So go ahead, sir.
Okay, so basically, in a very people are calling it cold or slow. I call it character development. There's this nice buildup of introducing Kate Bishop to the universe. Starting with her childhood and her experience in the Manhattan attack from the first Avengers film, and then seeing her grown up as kind of a rebellious but overachieving, athlete / superhero wannabe, Hawkeye wannabe, basically. And then we also have, while that's going on, we've got Clint Barton, who's back, hearing issues, and he has, he's kind of struggling with his, what it's like to be so beloved, I guess, in the city, even though no one really, loves Hawkeye except me. So that's kind of what the essence of the show is. Is you got someone who wants to be Hawkeye and someone who's struggling with being Hawkeye, and then of course there's a murder investigation. We don't know a lot about it yet. High society stuff going on, and I don't know if that's a good summary or not, but that's what I got.
That is the 30,000 foot view. So yeah, we'll get into more specifics. So thank you very much, sir. I want to. Well, that was the start, but I want to really kick things off with Annie, because I have never seen someone anticipate a piece of media more than you. So tell us about, where did your love of Hawkeye come from? The Matt Fraction,
Yes.
David
Yeah.
Aja collection from 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to resonate with Kate Bishop personally. I don't know if you guys could tell, with that 10-year difference between falling in love with Hawkeye then and then watching it kind of transpire later. This is a very personal series to me. It's something that I got to do. Reading that comic 10 years ago, you know, as a 12-year-old and at age 22, watching it manifest is just really special. But yeah, that was one of the first comics I ever read. I think trying to get into it and trying to find something that was interesting enough, and I really like the art style. That's one of my favorite way that art can be distributed and displayed. I also speak sign language fluently, so being able to see that
Get out of here.
Yeah, I studied sign language as a foreign language through high school. The high school I attended was the largest public deaf, hard of hearing school. So we had integrated classrooms. So it's fluent to conversational. I'm not as sharp as I once was with it, but watching that, you know, from a developmental era in my own life, become mainstream and then go on later to learn it myself. More of what, David?
More, keep going.
You say more.
Yeah, more.
I think that even, you know, I've always been someone that's personally really drawn to the short, dark-haired protagonist who has a bow in hand.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's
I know.
something I wanted to internalize in myself. I was like, oh, I have like 3/4 of this or 2/3 of this down or whatever. You know, that's something that really personally strikes me. And then with seeing Clint as this everyday guy, as a street level hero, as, you know, in the comics he's a landlord, but in this instance he's a former Avenger and a veteran Avenger, and tying it back to these two different plot lines at play. It's not perfect, but what they can work with, they're doing it really well. They're really just taking this and taking it a step back and simplifying it. And I know someone here said it was kind of a slow start. Well, it's character development. Not everyone knows this version of Clint. Not everyone knows about his wife and kids, unless you were there back in 2015 during Age of Ultron. And I think having these small nods, small to medium nods directly to Fraction's work, with Kazi and the tracksuit guys, with Echo, with the hearing aid, and having to stand on one side of Clint, and, you know, all of these really, even with Lucky eating pieces of pizza out of Clay's hand, that is so cool to see without the Marvel Studios glorification behind it. We don't need the glorification behind it. It's not made for the glorification. Sure, we need that introduction. Oh, okay, the Chitauri were here back in 2012. We're past that. We've established that this is here in canon, and we're moving back, you know, beyond that. And I think being able to satisfy different demographics and different psychographics through this show by, you know, targeting people like me who have been waiting 10 years to see this and have really been anticipating this since its announcement, or those who go, oh, cool, Marvel has another show. It's about Clint Barton. Okay, you know, I know he's not the most charismatic or charming or, you know, this and that and the other thing, but you have this newcomer to the scene, and they're doing a really nice job of introducing her. She might be a Mary Sue at some points where she's listing all of her accomplishments and winning a black belt at 15, and you don't have enough, unless you go back and read the comics, you don't have enough context of that outside of she being rich and privileged and all that. But yeah, Hailee Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner are, this is it. This is what, you know, this is what it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I would, anybody who levels that Mary Sue claim against Kate Bishop, just for the first couple episodes I've seen, you know, I don't think that's fair, because she does get her ass handed to her in some of those fight scenes. She's not perfect. As far as her, you know, being a medalist and a champion athlete and everything, you know, you look at Bruce Wayne running away to, you know, the Far East and all over the globe, you know, as a privileged, you know, rich kid, you know, basically saying, I want to become, well, he wanted to become a different kind of Avenger. But, you know, if I'm going to be mad at Kate Bishop for being really good at hand-to-hand combat at such a young age, I'm gonna have to turn the side, give Bruce Wayne the side eye too.
Oh, I'm not
so-
mad about it. I'm just
No,
saying that.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Well,
that you're
I
saying that.
totally
I'm just
see where you're
I
coming
would
from, and I'm
expect
not
that
saying
argument
that-
to come from.
Oh no, I'm not
He
trying
deserves
to
the
argue
side
that.
eye.
I agree with you, but I'm saying that it's very typical to see for young females in media. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It
It's kind of the Ray effect where they work and they get their ass handed to and they struggle and they try, but at the same time they're very victorious in that happening.
No. Well, so let's get a couple more opinions back around the table, because I do want to get to this idea of it being, kind of boring. I've been very surprised by the kind of mixed media reaction to the show. A lot more negativity than I had expected, because I was, really, maybe I'm biased because I've been looking forward to this since I saw the trailers and I thought it looks really fun. And I think that's what we've gotten in the first couple episodes. But not everyone feels that way. So let me, we've got a lot of folks here on the panel. So let me just ask, is there anybody who this did not resonate for them? And Elliot just turned off his camera, so maybe he's hiding in shame. But no, anybody who wants to jump in with some not so positive feelings about Hawkeye, and then we'll come back to the Love Fest.
bro.
The DC
All right.
shill will
Bro.
hush. The DC
Oh,
shill.
Why
Well-
would I just
Ooh.
like
Oh,
one?
okay.
There
I
is-
want to hear the DC side of things.
Okay, I shouldn't say
What,
the
were
DC
19 seasons of Arrow not good enough for you, Mark? The CW calls, they want the fandom back.
two seasons of Arrow was more than enough for me. Trust me.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm a fan, and I'm still no.
It's an awful show.
No, I dug it. I dig the exploration of the Barton character, and I am digging Kate Bishop and the relationship. The best parts of the show really work together when these two are together. I think a couple of the problems, not problems, just things that felt a little clunky, and maybe it'll smooth out as the series goes along, but we only got 6 episodes, is Kate Bishop, the way they have her written in here, does smart things till she doesn't. Like, they play her up as being smart, being able, she does this wonderful dialogue with her, future stepdad. And there's this wonderful scene to where she's playing it right. But then 5 minutes later, she crashes through a skylight rather than be more stealthy like you would think she was, and at least put together, earlier. And it's done more for a gimmick so that she crashes through and she's with, Hawkeye with the jumpsuit guys. It just didn't, the tone for me, and maybe it's just because I'm not familiar with either of these characters. I haven't read the source material. I am unfortunately not like the rest of you that I'm really not with these characters. So this is my first introduction really to the Kate Bishop. So for me, it feels a little uneven. I'm digging it. I really like what they've done with Barton. I love what they're doing with Barton, because here we have the only common guy basically outside of Black Widow, the only common human out of the Avengers, and we're seeing the effects and the toll it has taken over the years on someone who doesn't have super healing power. I love that bit, and I love the Kate Bishop part, and I love them together. It's just some of the writing for the world around them is uneven for me, and I'm not quite sure what tone I'm supposed to have, because the tone we're getting right now is not the tone exactly that we got in the trailer.
Well, I just wanted to counter something, Mark. I understand what you're saying, but I think there's a difference between holding your own in intellectual, jujitsu with the creepy, stepfather to be, and being kind of a lousy tactician in terms of taking on a gang of, underworld criminals. Crashing through the skylight might have been like, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So yeah, you can be really smart and just be a lousy action hero, especially because it's like her first week really doing that. I do see what you're saying, and they do have 4 more episodes. It's weird to think we're already a third through this show, right. So let's Mike, you were gonna say something before Mark
Oh, man, it
Oh,
was
my
nothing.
apologies. I didn't mean to step on you.
No,
Sorry.
I just noticed him starting to say something, and there wasn't really interruption. I just want to make sure Mike had a chance to say something.
Oh, it was nothing really quite important. It was just like a small criticism, and
No, let's
not
hear
even
it.
like
You're
a
here to
criticism.
criticize. Go ahead.
It
Mike.
was
We'd
it
love
was
to hear
more
it.
like no, it was just an odd scene where why would Cliff be taken to a Broadway musical?
Cliff?
Yeah.
Cliff, my favorite Avenger is Cliff.
And not me.
Yeah,
Cliff
Eddie
Barton.
Clayton.
Leaving,
I was gonna say Hawkeye.
you know.
Why was
Well,
he taken to a
exactly.
Broadway
Morgan?
musical
Does
about
David or
like
Elliot do George
like
Wendt
an event in
cosplay?
his life that could possibly be traumatizing? And they're like, "Hey, Dad, let's go see this." Like, why would his kids do that?
I mean, he might have he might have been invited to like a
kids
special.
Don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Yeah,
that's why it
yeah.
was like kind of like I don't think that's a real criticism, but it was kind of like a weird.
I mean,
sort
that's
of
interesting that
fleeting
you say that
thought
though,
that I-
because
when
he
I thought.
does kind of experience that PTSD when they show Natasha and he has
Yeah.
to turn off the hearing aid and get up and leave. Which I love the hearing aid. That is how you introduce deafness.
and,
Deafness
well,
does not equate to stupidity, and this, having that hearing aid kind of be at his disposal, where it chooses that he doesn't depend, or it shows or demonstrates that he doesn't depend on his disability or his impediment, but it's there. That
Yeah.
visibility is what we needed for this. But I mean, Mike, you make a really good point about him getting up and leaving during the Natasha scene. I think I'm surprised that we didn't see Yelena in this at all.
Well, not yet.
After Florence Pugh was billed for all 6 episodes.
Plus, at the end of Black
Oh.
Widow, she's got his dossier, and he's a target.
I do
After
have
they
to
opened the Jeremy Renner app and they showed a picture of him.
It is.
Did they like
Yeah.
use the aging one too? And yeah.
Can we
well,
bring
I do want to mention because Joe Jordan is joining us here in the comments. Thank you,
What up,
Joe.
Joe?
He said Clint Barton's hearing aid really threw me for a loop.
What'd you say?
I wonder
yes.
if because help me out here. Was this? I knew he had like this hearing issue. When was this established? Either in the comics or in the
In the
MCU?
comics.
Is this
In
is
the
all new
fraction.
information for new fans?
So
Yeah.
in the comics, he actually had arrows jammed into his ears.
Oh,
And that's how he lost when he was with the circus. That's how he lost his ear or his hearing from the clown. With this, they kind of referenced it to a lot of just high noise, high impact, and the physical deterioration on his hearing over the years.
Yeah. In
You
this
got
this
a movie
particular
style
show,
shortcut here, yeah.
right? I just didn't know if that had been if I'd missed something because there's been 20 of these movies. I thought maybe they had introduced it earlier, but
Oh.
I thought it was cool in this episode to show where it came from because it is kind of like out of the left field, and then they show it's like, oh well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The whole thing with Natasha and her dying at the end of I guess Infinity War is Mark, you mentioned that Clint was kind of the only street level Avenger. Natasha's the next closest thing. I mean, she was a world-class trained, government assassin, but she was still just a human being. So he kind of lost the one person that he could really relate to and kind of confide in. And what I liked about that scene is there is almost a callousness on the part of the public to turn. It's almost like 9/11 the musical. You're taking all the events of the Avengers, all of these like multiple world-ending events where families were disrupted. Clint, I mean, let's just take away the Natasha thing. What I love, one of the things I absolutely love about what we've seen so far is watching Clint Barton with his family. He's got his kids in New York for Christmas, and his wife is back home. I can't remember why they're apart, but they're all okay. What? Oh, it was just a bonding trip. Okay, not just a bonding trip, but I didn't know if there was some other like work reason or something. But so he's getting ready to take the kids back home, but he gets sidetracked by this new unofficial mission. But every time you see him with the family, whether it's sitting down at that Chinese restaurant or going out to plan what we're going to do while we're in New York, you can just tell. And this is a tribute to Jeremy Renner. I finally get him as an actor, really, and what he's capable of watching this show, because you realize he is so thankful to have his family back with him. and to turn his back on all that superheroism. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He gets drawn back into it, and he's so, when he has to put his kids, in the shuttle to go back to the airport without him because he's got to take care of this business, he's like, damn it, I don't want to lose my family again potentially, because I don't know if I'm going to come back from this, and I don't care about saving the world. I just want to hug them, but I feel obligated. It's this kind of stuff, and maybe this is what people are cluing into as far as like, oh, it's boring, and why aren't there more fights or aliens or cameos or whatever. This is what I've been looking for in a lot of these Marvel shows. The earlier shows, like with WandaVision, even with Falcon and Winter Soldier, we keep getting these kind of everyday life stories with really weird things happening to these superpowered people. This is taking it almost back down to the Daredevil level, where you really have just someone who's living and working among regular common people who are trapped in this universe with gods, and we're seeing how they live their everyday lives.
Yeah. Off of Daredevil there, I know that there is a direct connection to Daredevil. So I'm not sure, with Echo being adopted child of Kingpin.
David, you posted that thing.
You said Vincent D'Onofrio is on his way, right?
Maybe.
He'll come
Yeah,
tumbling
so
through a
too.
multiverse portal.
He's
or
back?
something.
Well, David
nice.
posted in our chat a little bit ago in the Facebook group, like 68 and 75,000 Easter eggs from Hawkeye episodes 1 and 2, and one of them was Vincent D'Onofrio, and just one of those things was like his face is circled. And there's an arrow pointing to him. I don't know.
What was the source, but yeah.
Well,
it's Screen Rant doing their thing.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, why not?
Yeah,
Elliot.
Do you think that could be a possibility?
Elliot's gonna come back? No.
Elliot, will you come back? Elliot,
Disney wants everyone inside their
return,
ecosystem, so it's absolutely a possibility.
Elliot, tell us what did you make of this episode
or
episodes? Yeah.
I called it the most Disney of the Disney Plus series so far.
So you loved it.
Nothing wrong with that.
I
I will agree with Joe. While folks who read the Hawkeye comic books know that he uses he's been using a hearing aid in one ear, because in the Mark Gruenwald series back in the 80s, he had the pretty much jam a arrow in his ear to go to keep himself from falling under the spell of the mind master or something like that. But they didn't establish that in the MCU. Why does he use a hearing aid now? But I love how we're revisiting the attack on New York by the Chitauri in the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, can we remind everyone that Loki was an ass? That we had this entire series talking about how everyone loves Loki and Loki's great and let's redeem Loki. No, Loki's the reason Kate Bishop lost her father. And that so many people died because of Loki. And yes, the whole Rogers the musical thing. Wait, would we make a 9/11 musical?
Yeah,
we would if it was that clever and toe-tappingly awesome. I could do this all day. Come on.
Only if Michael Shannon and Nick Cage were in it.
Imagine if Rudolph Giuliani became vice president, then we definitely would have.
That was
9/11
extremely loud and incredibly close. That was a musical, right?
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Just checking.
I mean, if Green Day can make
laughed.
musical, so can anyone else.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but about 9/11.
It was surprising that they did make a musical out of that. I mean, I'm with Elliot is that it was odd. On one hand, it showed the absurdity of Broadway. I mean, we had how many movies about 9/11, so maybe they were pointing towards that. And it does give you a chance to see how those events affected Hawkeye. At the same point, you're like, would they really? And I don't know, if it's like them presenting how the world has really moved on. But
guys,
really,
it's called
hasn't.
Rogers the Musical. So we only saw one song. I could do this.
Oh,
all
do we
day.
have to see more?
Fun.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
Lord.
they did bring in they brought in like all of the
Ant-Man.
Avengers to be on, and I did like that. He wasn't even there.
Yeah, he wasn't even there. Why is that?
But it's what would be a nice little tweak to this whole thing would be if it was kind of like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, where it was like this big, oh my God, it's gonna be amazing Spider-Man on Broadway, and then everyone hates it.
No, it would just been funny if one of the actors just
But the
fell
rave
down
reviews are all there.
That would be good.
Sorry, Elliot, if I
kind of going off of that Spider-Man musical.
Sorry, Elliot, if I
do you
stepped
remember
on
the band Imagine Dragons? Do you guys remember those guys?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Imagine Dragons was the consequence of Spider-Man the musical failing on Broadway.
What do you mean?
Their hit song "Radioactive" was supposed to.
Oh,
was that from the Spider-Man musical?
How about that?
It was.
Imagine Dragons.
It was for the musical.
There goes my gym playlist.
There you go. You can think about that every time it comes on.
Nice, David. All right, Will.
Yes,
we've not heard from you much since the synopsis. I feel kind of bad. Step in. What do you make of this Hawkeye or Hawkeye?
Yeah, bro. Come on, bro. Come on,
bro. Come on, bro. Yeah, bro.
I wanted to mention a couple things, bro. So, for one, everyone knows me anyway, knows that my 3 favorite heroes are street level heroes in terms of no superpowers. Ant-Man's my favorite character. I have Ant-Man tattooed on my leg. Hawkeye's number 2, and Falcon / Captain America is number 3. So I really connect. I think someone else was saying that the street level heroes, that's what they really connect with. And that's what I connect with as well. They're the most relatable to me. So getting this, I was really excited for Hawkeye, obviously. I did want to bring up one thing that I liked too. And I do think that everything Marvel does has a purpose. There's always a connection. And I wanted to know if any of you guys picked up on this or not. And it could be just me. I've had a couple people comment on it as well when I've posted on Facebook. But what I really liked is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there was a scene where Sam tries to get a bank loan. And he can't get it. And it's kind of like a symbolism for, this idea of, how even if you're like a superhero, if you're black, you have certain things and guards in your place. I liked how this show, especially in the first episode, kind of shows that even though he doesn't really want it, Clint has a lot of privilege. People are like, oh, please take this. This is free. This is free. Please take this. You can have this. You can have this. He's not like under any kind of like, I mean, the most people want to do is they want to get a selfie with him at the urinal. It's so there's
what end? Yeah.
So
Nice.
there is kind of, I like that dynamic. I do think there is a connection there with the privilege of perhaps being a more quote unquote accepted white hero versus someone that still, regardless of if they defeat the world's greatest enemies, they still have to fight their own people against racism. And it's subtle. I'm not saying that they did it on purpose, not a woke thing or anything, but I did like that aspect of it because it was kind of like, man, he doesn't seem to struggle as much as someone like Falcon would.
Right.
And I like that. I like that concept. That was something that really stuck out to me in terms of it. And I think by getting a mini series format, 6 episodes, like Annie was saying, like I was saying, like this is called character development. This is not called, this isn't slow or dark or cold or whatever you want to call it. It's character development. And I think you get little things like this that make the show better. You get these little nuggets of statements about the culture. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Mark or Mike or maybe a different person altogether talking about how, we get to see how this culture of gods affects the people on the street. And that was really cool too. I think the opening with the Chitauri attacking and everything, it just grounds it a little bit more. And I like that. So I don't know. The show to me has been very impressive on not only tapping into these 2 people as individuals, but also getting the world a little bit more like, I think Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye have both really like put some realism on the world. I think that can be missing sometimes in the films. So
I do want to pick up on that. Absolutely. I thought that was a really cool way to open the series with the Battle of New York. But I will say, Elliot, to agree with you, it is the most Disney thing they could have done, killing off one of the parents in almost record time.
This is true.
And a pizza dog who I love, but the plot device to end all plot devices. It shows up here, grabs someone there, runs off there. I'm hoping later on they reveal that Pizza Dog was a Skrull who was essentially there.
Cool.
Like,
Yeah.
Elliot, like
Yeah,
I
that-
said in the group chat before, if anything happens to Lucky, I'm gonna kill everyone on this call and then myself. That's a weapon.
I think along with
kill yourself
Lucky,
first
Disney
and then
might
kill
have many more.
I'm going to make a prediction.
No killing anybody. This is all about love.
No, come
I
on.
love-
Talk.
I'm
I
going
wanna
to make
say-
a prediction.
You're just gonna
I'll
see
do
an
it
arrow
after
hit
the
someone's
season
head in
two.
the middle of a podcast, and
She's
we're
gonna
not gonna know
she's
why
gonna-
Annie's camera went off.
She's gonna Harold Ramis.
I'm gonna just show up. I have a bow downstairs. It's gonna be me and the bow, and you guys
Yeah.
know what's gonna.
She's gonna Egon Spengler haunt us.
Oh no! Hey,
Oh,
no
Jesus.
spoilers.
Oh no!
before we
No
get
spoilers.
lost,
She won't
and-
be able to speak.
Can I make a prediction real quick? Is that okay? Wait,
Go
I
for
didn't
it.
want to interrupt
Yeah.
anybody.
No, go ahead. Actually, wait. I
as-
want to throw up the spoiler banner just in case because we're
Ooh,
a little
here
bit
we go.
deep
Yeah,
into the show.
for
there now.
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Hey, there it is.
Okay.
What's-
That's a
So-
nice shade of
For
lilac.
those who have read that comic book run, I think it's issue number 8. I think has the whole issue from the dog's perspective. My prediction is I think one of the post-credit scenes will be
That would be
like,
awesome.
the dog's perspective. I think that would be so cool and
That'd be
a nice mention for the fans, but also just kind of a unique thing to do. I don't think they have
I
the
hear you,
balls
Elliot.
to do it. I don't think they have the balls to do it during the 6 episodes. But I think
Ellie, you can't have nice things.
No, because I mention this on the show when I was pitching for DC Comics. I pitched that very concept for Crypto. I pitched to the Superman offices.
I could have been a
Do an episode
contender.
From Crypto's point of view, no dialogue. It's all through this can't work.
Yeah.
Then Matt Fraction comes along and does it with Pizza Dog, and I
This
agree.
is
it
your
worked.
time to go back and pitch it again. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's too late now. They're going to
No,
say
Matt-
Matt
Bring up the
Fraction
thing
already
Pizza
did it.
Dog.
Right,
Fraction
yeah.
is your Lex Luthor. Is that what
Dwayne
you're
Johnson
saying?
playing crypto right now. Yeah.
But I will say this: when it comes to what
Oh.
other people, one person doing what could have worked or didn't work, Disney better freaking pay David Aja, because not only did they utterly ape his style, his comic books for the posters, but they made the entire freaking credit scene, the whole credit sequence in the very beginning, using his cover style.
Yep,
He even said on Twitter he's not getting paid for any of that.
that's terrible.
make sure they pay.
Isn't it like $5
Right.
grand is all they ever get? I saw a story.
Yeah.
What
Like,
is-
Well,
you
I mean,
remember,
I
I saw a story
I-
that their
Falcon and
program
Winter
is like
Soldier,
$5
they-
grand tops. So like
Yeah.
I mean, I
5
hate to
$5 grand is
stand up
which
for
is a
the
nice
for the
paycheck for
evil.
people, but come on.
I hate to stand up for the evil corporate
Oh.
overlords, but I mean,
No,
this
you
has been this has been a conversation that has
There you
been
go.
happening for a while. I mean, when they sign those freelance contracts, it's like any other thing. The
Yeah.
company that pays you owns the work. It's up to. It is crappy that they aren't, possibly doing, giving them, throwing them a little bone or something. But it's all it is art in their archive that they can repurpose and use as they want.
That's
No,
still
I
wrong,
agree.
bro.
Did I
That's
did I
why
see
I
that
didn't tell you
Faction's
it-
name was listed? Did I
That's
see
why-
that Faction's name was listed as a consulting producer where maybe
I
he's
think
getting
so.
a little extra some on there?
Probably.
Probably.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
all $2 grand.
Did Aha get? Is it Aha or Aja? Because I was thinking of the director from the 2000s.
I mean, potato
Yeah,
Has
potato,
anyone heard
right?
it spoken before? Because I know it's set. I don't. The first one that I've heard that pronounced it Aha.
He
And
has
now I
said
feel
it-
really bad that we've all been saying it wrong.
Only
No,
you.
he says people say
Aha,
it
we
both
got it
ways.
wrong.
That-
What
or
does he say,
or
though?
it could be AJ. No,
It could be AJ.
It
Oh,
could be
boy.
Aja, or Aha, because it's
We're
Spaniard.
gonna have an aha moment about this.
We got
Ooh,
I was just gonna say that, Annie. When he gets that check, he's gonna have an
All right,
aha
hey.
moment.
He's gonna have an
Yes.
aha moment.
That's it. I'm out. Bye. Sorry, I can't.
What has happened to Hawk
We're
Talk?
freeing up room on the panel.
Right.
No,
oh
no,
he's
Elliot, come
out.
back.
Uh
son of a gun.
That was an
He
arrow.
rage quitted.
He's gonna come back with a twirling mustache like Swordsman.
That'd be
This is
awesome.
his Joker origin story.
Oh, well, Elliot, please come back. We love you.
There he is.
So
There he is.
Thank you. I manifested
will,
that.
I will say that a little bit of a predictable, not so much of a gripe, but maybe a bit of an eye roll was the whole. Guess what? I'm going to be marrying. I'm engaged. I'm going to be marrying this twirly mustache guy. It's going to be great.
Literally,
And
yeah.
and both
Mhm.
both the Jack, aka Swordsman, and her mom, they're a little suspicious, aren't they? Come on.
Yep, no,
I mean, she's
I
got
would
to
hope
know
so.
that he's doing something with this. She acknowledges the abundance.
Yeah,
of
she's
swords.
shady too, though. Come on, it's very far.
Well,
I'm
she
saying
did on
she's
the
just
bird.
as
Yeah.
shady.
There's
I
no
know,
way
I
she
know.
couldn't be done
I'm
with it.
agreeing with you that she is just as shady because she's like,
Right.
oh, hey, yeah, the swords are a new hobby. I'm like, girl.
But it would have been
no.
nice if it was a little
Yeah.
bit more subtle.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
all right.
Well,
but
this is-
it's
and this
very
is
clear they're
something-
both in on something, and there's always been
Yeah.
something wrong with her, especially like at the very beginning of the first episode. You see, there's like an argument between
Right.
her
Mhm.
and then the husband, and then he dies, and
Like,
then we're
she's
like,
more of
well,
a
why was
daddy's
that in there?
girl.
But then we see
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
that she's in this weird relationship with this other guy, and you're like, oh, maybe that's what were they really arguing about? And then it kind of makes you kind of look back on that later. I think we're gonna find out what that is later down the line.
Well, they do
Mike,
kind
do
of
you think they're
indicate that
having an
she's.
affair?
Nah.
Or is that too much for a Disney show?
I don't know. I don't think it would be.
I'm
an affair. I
serious.
think
Is
that'd
it
be.
too much for a Disney quote unquote family friendly programming? Because like
I
do
think
I
it would
have to
be
sit
more
my
like
5-year-old
as an
kid
evil
down and explain
MacGuffin
to
or
him what an
something.
affair is?
Yeah.
In all honesty, the thing that caught me is that it's Disney, but there's and I don't know if it's in the comics because obviously I just have the perspective of the two shows.
Mhm.
There's an implication she's a bit of an alcoholic.
I'm okay with that. I'm
No,
okay with
I
that.
mean it's
Yeah.
not. I mean it's not like she's fall down
She's
drunk,
on the sauce.
but
She's like the
they
Carrie Coon from
constantly putting a
Ghostbusters.
drink in her hand.
Yeah.
Look, okay, I
Then
just got to
again,
step
Vera,
in here
you know,
for
what are you
1
talking
second.
about?
One
Okay.
second, guys.
I don't know what you mean.
And
I Mike, you just did something that I gotta put a stop to it. Just pump the brakes. No more mention of Ghostbusters. I don't want to trigger poor Will or myself. I've listened. I'm mostly through their Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast episode on Ghostbusters, and it's amazing. But yeah, I think Will has just about as much
Fair enough.
PTSD from that movie as I do. So let's just no more. G-
No
more G
words.
My apologies. Fair enough. Yeah.
No, I just don't have a soul or like taste or anything apparently because
Nope,
everyone's
that's
laughing
true.
in the theater and I'm just sitting there going like
Yeah.
I hate all of you.
I will say the more I think about that movie, the angrier I do get.
well, let's keep it
That's
light
your
and
secret.
fun.
You're always angry.
Oh, bringing it back to the Marvel universe. Congrats, David.
So,
So here's the thing, though. I don't have much context for Hawkeye, and I am sad to say, I'm going to put this very gingerly because I know there's a lot of people who really recommended this to me, but I am almost done with the Hawkeye collection. I started reading a few weeks
boy.
ago,
Here we go.
and had I
I'm about
liked,
to leave the studio.
ready.
listen, no, well, get ready because we're going to free up some space on the stream.
Here we go.
Had I liked it, I would have. Wow.
Holy
So she's gone.
Boygan.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
boy.
All right. So
okay, even I'm not that much of a Hawkeye fan. I'm good, dude. Whatever.
There you go.
Like,
Well,
She's gonna kill us all now. Thanks.
oh, okay. Okay. Well,
Oh, here she comes. Here she comes.
we'll just let her hang out for a while.
That's right.
No.
Oh, okay.
She's
Well
gonna
played,
kill
Okay,
us all
no,
now.
okay,
Thanks,
continue. That
Ian.
was immature. Keep going.
Well, you are the youngest
You
here.
came here.
I love that you committed to the bit.
I did.
I have to say, like, we did fall for it. I'm like, jeez, that was.
That
Well,
means
no,
we're all
what-
gonna die in 4 episodes, guys. I'm just gonna tell you right now.
What happened was she left. She shot like 5 anger arrows into the wall and then took a breath and then came back. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
basically.
Which
Which is
all right.
probably next week's episode.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: had I liked the Hawkeye story, I would have finished this collection like several days ago. My problem, I don't know that it's partially a problem with the actual story itself because my understanding of Hawkeye is limited. It's pretty much limited to what I've seen in the however many Marvel movies he's been in. It's a completely different character than what we've gotten in the book, and from what I would have thought about the Avengers, a completely different Hawkeye than what I imagine would have been running around the Marvel universe. This feels very much like a different take on an Avenger. Like, hey, what if we took this normal guy Avenger and took him down to street level? They made him into kind of a jerk and sort of a loser and makes a lot of really dumb decisions. Now, well, yes. I will say, I think Marvel could have given us a little bit of a leg up because they're putting out this $40 trade called Hawkeye, the Saga of Barton and Bishop to tie in, I imagine, to build hype for this Disney Plus show. They give no context for who any of these characters are. I was like, okay, cool. Kate Bishop. I wonder what she's all about. By the time this miniseries starts, or this 22 issue series starts, whatever, Kate Bishop's already been around for a while. There's no, like, they could have just done a 1-pager of like Kate Bishop was this child of privilege and she
Young
met
Avengers.
That's great, but I don't know who the hell they are or where to start with that. I bought this expecting like this is sort of a way in, and I'm already like midway through the story.
I want my money back.
I kind of do. I mean, I'm going to finish the collection. I feel like it is kind of picking up, but for as I'm glad you guys loved it, but for as much as you sold this thing on to me and like it's going to be great, I'm like, I'm not interested.
So I understand your perspective. I totally do,
Sure.
because you're coming at this character from strictly having a knowledge of the MCU. Now, I mean, I grew up on Avengers comics, and Clint Barton was one of my favorite Avengers, just because he was kind of like a meta character, kind of like a gateway character for readers, because he grew up kind of like sort of as a carny, and Avengers Children's Crusades, good one. But he was the most grounded, say, Avengers, and I like the fact that he was an archer, and he was kind of a sardonic, kind of arrogant, very loyal and courageous and brave, but also, kind of a jerk at times, and you didn't get that with Renner's performance in any of the movies, really. So I understand where you're coming from and your perspective, that this may be somewhat different for somebody with like you, who was only introduced to Hawkeye primarily through the movies. I get it. That being said, when Age of Ultron came out and they introduced his like family, Hawkeye doesn't have a family in the comics. I mean, he's probably been a long-standing bachelor forever. He's been just a long-standing bachelor forever. And so I remember when they introduced his family, I'm like, oh, well, there goes my hope for a fraction, offshoot of a Hawkeye movie. But, I think they're doing it, they're trying to combine what they've already introduced and what, parts of the fraction story and parts of the Kate Bishop story from Young Avengers and everything. And I think that they're doing a good job so far in these 2 episodes.
And I will say that is one of the things I like is the melding of the fraction story with the Marvel Universe stuff, because honestly, I'm reading this comic and I'm so tired of these terrible Russian mob tracksuit characters. They are a 1-page joke.
Oh, totally.
At best.
What are you talking about, bro?
Bro.
I don't know.
Dude,
Honestly, we are not
bro.
all villains in Russia. We do not appreciate how we're represented on screen.
Right. I mean,
but no, honestly, I'm kind of tired
They're
of how
Polish,
every
they're not
Russian is depicted as like a horrible bad guy who wants to launch a nuke or capture.
I think they're
someone or
Albanian,
do
but
something
that's okay.
else.
Well,
I don't know.
I will say, to reference that, Ian, I will say that since Ronan, has all these people that he's made enemies of, I do think it's funny that so far, I know that Echo's coming in and everything like that, but the fact that it's this tracksuit mafia, and even the wife is like, those idiots. Yeah. Like, it is kind of funny that like that's the people that are mad at him in this show. Like, I was kind of expecting more of a Punisher level, like everyone's gunning for him, which is kind of in the comic. They have like an auction for his life with all the big heavy hitters, But it is a little odd that they're setting up this whole thing like Ronan had all these enemies, and so far all we're getting is these doofuses.
It's hilarious.
So.
Well, I think I don't know where the show's going. I'm obviously the only people who do are the ones who worked on it, but I like that it feels almost like a video game. Like these, because we're dealing with the street level Avenger. He's dealing with the street level threat once this Ronin costume is kind of resurfacing. I have a feeling like they're going to be kind of swept away, or they're going to give way to, I guess, this Echo character, and possibly even like a bigger, like escalating threat. Because you're right, as more people become aware, the Russians were sort of in the vicinity of this costume kind of coming back into play, and the swords and all that. So it makes sense that they're going through this journey. I will say, you keep mentioning the swordsman, this being the Jack character, the new soon-to-be father-in-law. I have no idea who that is. All I know is that the guy who's playing him looks like, you guys know the actor Adam Brody? He was like on the OC. He looks like an old Adam Brody with a really bad mustache, and I love it.
Or a poor man's Timothy Dalton from Rocketeer.
Ooh,
That's what I was
good
thinking.
call.
His
Who's a
last
poor
name is
man's Errol
Dalton,
Flynn.
by the way.
That's true.
The
That's
actor's
true.
name
Jack
is
Dalton.
Dalton.
Yeah.
So
Oh, all right.
Swordsman is a classic Avengers character.
Yep.
Ties in with Hawkeye's history. They were all, so I'm really surprised that they're doing the Swordsman and the Black Knight, which seemed kind of like really redundant. if you ask me.
yes.
Oh,
But that's at the end of Eternals, right? That's what you're referring to. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know
The
if you were
one you
suggesting
loved,
there's a
remember?
Black Knight reference in this show.
One's mystical, one's a glorified carny. Come on.
Yes.
Correct.
I guess.
I do have to
Oh.
say, I was expecting. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I was expecting, like, cause he was the Ronin, he would have like the triads or whatever the Japanese mafia
Eventually.
is after
Yakuza-
him. Like that would have
Yakuza,
made more sense with the sort of world they already established. But I guess you don't. really
Unless
need
he
I
killed
think
them
it's
all.
building.
Yeah.
Well, no, well,
No,
I think it's building.
yeah,
Like
they-
I think with Ronin reappeared even in an accidental way. We got this first news story. The Russians are local, and it'll escalate from there. I mean, we got 4 episodes. Clearly, Florence Pugh's going to show up. She's going to escalate things just fine. And yeah, if Julie Louis-Dreyfus's puppeteers out there behind her, this will get ugly in a hurry.
And all 5 Spider-Mans. Let's throw all the
shit.
Spider-Mans
Yes.
while we're at it.
Yes.
Good lord.
And Ang
Mark-
Lee's
Yeah.
Hulk. Oh,
Yes.
Mark.
I mean, I would take John
Edward
Gillis
Norton
off Punisher
while we're
right
at
now. Absolutely.
with
and
Nick
Affleck
Nolte
Daredevil.
stumbling through.
Time out, everybody. Time out.
I'm all for
Mark,
that.
jump
I'm
in.
for that.
Mark,
No,
what were you gonna say?
The one thing that has caught me with this series more so than any of the others, and maybe it's just me, like I said, all of you are very more Marvel fans and such. There felt like there was a lot more winking to the audience in this one, and a lot more of if you're in the know, more so they like you mentioned Echo. I have no freaking idea who you're talking about. Who Echo is. I'm assuming it's the lady who was touching the speaker at the end, but I don't exactly know that, but I know Marvel fans out there, and I saw it on my feed too. Everybody's like very excited for the introduction of all these characters and even the swordsman. And for me, I think I'm losing out a little bit on the audio, on the weight, and maybe they'll establish it later, but with only 6 episodes, this one's definitely going into another season, or at least I hope so, because I'm like sitting here going, I don't understand the weight of half these characters, but the way it's directed and written, it's almost like, look who we've got here for the Marvel fans. And the rest of us are like, okay, he's a twirly guy. I knew for 3 seconds that he was, going to be bad.
Let me help you out. Let me just help you out with this, Mark, because I didn't get the winking at all. I think you say you're constantly telling me don't read the comments. I'm going to say don't read any coverage of these shows before, during, or after you watch them. Well, I would say after you watch the entire series, then go back and read the shows and look at the Easter egg videos and all that stuff, because I think that they have created this show with both fandoms in mind. People who like the MCU and have never read a comic book, and those who have read all the comics and know. Because when I brought up the Swordsman, you guys were like, oh, it's a classic Avengers villain. I'm like, okay, cool. I will probably see that next episode, or at least by the end of this will be a big reveal. But you don't need to know that. You are not losing any information by not knowing who this is at this point, right? And the same thing with Echo. With that whole thing about Vincent D'Onofrio and all that, I don't think I finished watching all of the Daredevil. I think I watched all of season 1 and part of season 2. So I don't know if she was introduced in that, or if that's something that hasn't been established yet, but it's only from the comics. Again, unless they, she shows up and says, aha, don't you remember these, all the 5 years of these missions that we've been on, and that's the only context we get. I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, I just say, don't worry about when people are saying, oh, look, it's all these amazing Easter eggs. That's for them. You can just enjoy it as the new fan and maybe catch up later, because we're in the same boat.
And again, like I said, it's going to be when this, I think my looking back will see where they go with only 6 episodes. That's my only concern, is that there's a lot of ground to seem to cover even for if you're just an MCU know the characters from the movies versus the comics. There seems to be a lot of ground to at least cover with it to where it doesn't become 1966 Batman, to where we just have here's villain, you know what I mean? Who's very
we're not going there.
You know,
I think,
who's clearly the villain, and that's it. You know?
I think Marvel's the Disney Plus shows anyway have had mixed results in that too, because like for me, like I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that was paced perfectly. It got all the plot points it needed to get across in 6 episodes. But then you had Loki, which I felt there was like 2.5 episodes where it was just talking, like that finale. Jonathan Majors is great, but he talks for 12 straight minutes. It's like they didn't have enough to pad everything out and get it all there. So I feel like with the way this is written, like I said, some people are saying it's boring or it's cold or I hope it gets better. I think it's actually so far progressing really well. I think it's progressing really well in terms of the pacing and stuff. Because I feel like, unlike maybe like some other characters in some of the other shows, like I feel like I really understand Kate Bishop now. I understand her psychology. I understand where she's coming from. I understand her mannerisms. And Clint, they're opening up a new level to him, and I think it's done really well. So I'm going to lean more towards the Falcon Winter Soldier mold with this one. I mean, obviously we'll see, but I like the pacing so far. I like that there's 4 episodes left. I feel like we're going to get a lot of meat, personally.
I do too. Before you jump in, Don, I wanted to, or John.
My middle name is John. I can take that.
John,
Really?
John, really?
Donald, like the duck, and then John. Yeah, I'm sorry.
John?
Better than
No,
Cliff.
fine.
Cliff
Donald John.
Hello, John. Welcome, John.
So I missed this from Joe a little bit ago. The Tracksuit Mafia. What a welcome source of comic relief. I can't tell if that's sarcasm or if you're being genuine. If
Joe's
it's sarcasm,
I
love it. If
if
it's not sarcasm, awesome.
I
Anyway,
mean, like, think about it though. There's a little more humor compared to Loki or Falcon and Winter Soldier, where things are very stoic and they're very, dark and overshadowed, like grief and gloom.
It's humorous in the comic too. So.
I mean, there was some humor in WandaVision in the first couple of episodes where you're like, oh, that's there goes.
Oh, because the kishiness of the setting,
that's fun.
Yeah.
But
I love.
But I think they're balancing. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say really quickly to that humor point, because something I wanted to bring up earlier. The scene where Kate, I love the whole setup. She is asked to go to this charity gala with her mother, and instead of dressing in something nice and girly, she dresses in essentially an all black like suit, and she ends up using that to pose as a waiter to later infiltrate this black market auction down the wine cellar. And I love that she goes and poses with this tray. One of the other servers is like, who are you? What are you doing down there? And she's like, oh yeah, Gary told me to come. Now I've seen this bit before. Someone else shows up and she's like, yeah, Gary told me to come. I was like, I'm Gary. And then but the button on that is, he says, excuse me, what's your name? And then she takes the beat and says, that's just the problem. You don't know my name.
You don't even know my name.
And she quits. And then she uses that to run.
Yeah, then he's like, you can't quit. And it's like, instead of going like, wait a minute, I don't even know. Like, instead of
I might have used that to quit a job before.
After her or tries to.
That'd be
but
funny.
it's fun spy humor. Maybe I'm a sucker for fun spy gags.
No, it's like the gags feel real and genuine and not forced, like sometimes Marvel can have some jokes that are like, oh god, they're trying way too hard. But here
is that the
Don is trying way too hard to get in here, so I'm gonna let him in. Go ahead, Don.
Well, to that, I mean, to the force part, is that kind of the LARPer scene? Like, are they just going, hey, let's put one of the world's most deadliest fighters and killers among a bunch of foam-toting fanboys, and how that's just going to play out with all the winks and nods and gags, and like, so that I loved it. It's a fun little scene, but at the same time, it's just they're doing that for comedy's sake.
The
musical we talked about earlier is lame and a half, where it's there for comedy's sake. It's I know. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's that plot instrument that gets us to the deafness and gets us to the trauma and the grief, and that's kind of the big point I was trying to circle and get a spot in is for the 4th straight series. We're post blip and post endgame, we're watching a character go through their trauma, and I dig that. I tip my hat to that because and we've seen each of the 4 shows manifest that in a very different way. And for Clint, who has to kind of have a chin up and be a family man, he probably just, and being the the smooth guy he apparently is, to disarm that with humor and with sarcasm is probably his speed compared to Wanda, who's gonna gaslight a goddamn town. And then and then Falcon and Winter Soldier, who obviously have their past violences and of course the racial ingredients in there with that, where this is Clint's way of doing it, and it's Christmas, and everyone's supposed to kind of buck up at Christmas and be a little better about things. So and you could tell that the seeds are planted in the character development we all been celebrating, that you're going to get Clint. It's going to go darker for him because he those memories of Ronin, and not just his hearing loss and the battles and weariness that he's got, but like the mistakes he's made is going to come up and get him. And I'm not a big predictor. I'm not going to get the Easter egg videos, but like I can easily see this series. I know it's Disneyfied, where there's a place where this doesn't end well for him, where all of this stuff catches up and gets to him. I don't want it to happen to him. I hope he can make it because he's our family man we've been rooting for, but this could get ugly for him, and I'm okay with that. And at the same time, it was necessary because I don't think you can have that Ronin character do what he did and just walk away and disappear.
Yeah, bro.
So I'm okay with the in that way. I find it balanced because it's Christmas. We're just trying to get through it, and obviously Kate brings pluck and all that, but the trauma that started it, especially for Kate in her origin, is still there, and the trauma that got Clint to his hearing loss and the place where he has to clean up his own messes is there, and I think that'll thicken as we go.
Yeah, I want to. If I could add two things to that,
Yeah,
to Don,
please.
to help out my podcast buddy here. I am anxious to see, because unfortunately with Endgame, the only problem I had with Endgame was they had a lot of loose ends to tie up, and unfortunately the Hawkeye/Ronin storyline was the one that had to be kind of rushed through. And I'm hoping the series touches on like what Don's talking about with like a bad end. Is there's a scene in Endgame where War Machine is like, dude, he went to Mexico and just messed everybody up, and he's like, he looks shell shocked. He's like, oh my god, I can't believe Clint did this. So I'd like to see his like how other people react to him, and I think that weighs on his soul because a lot of people are like saying, oh, you saved our lives, you're great. And I think he has a little bit of that wariness in him. But the other thing I was going to say to support Don on this is that I think that the humor is very fitting to the way that Jeremy Renner has played Hawkeye. What I've always liked about his MCU appearances, with maybe the exception being the first Avengers where he's a zombie most of the time, is he always kind of feels like the outsider in that even his performances seem like they're in a different movie in a good way. Like when he shows up in Civil War, you've got all this grand stuff going on, and he's just like, you guys screwed everything up, and what the hell am I going to do around here? And then even in the Endgame, when everyone's running around punching everybody and everything, he's kind of like, what the hell do you want me to do with this Infinity Gauntlet? Like he seems like so. He looks like he's kind of put out that he has to deal with these situations, and that goes through in the acting. And I think the sense of humor in the show deals with him being like, this is all a joke. This is ridiculous. Why am I here? You know, it plays with his attitude. It's very true to the character, I guess. It's like you said, it's not forced. Like a lot of Marvel stuff can be like we all know in Eternals, the whole IKEA collection joke, you know, it's a little too, or Scooby-Doo this crap from the Spider-Man trailer. This is very Renner natural. Like it feels like I'm seeing this character as he's been portrayed. There's no changing of him. And I like that.
Well, I want to say something you mentioned helped me out with something that it was a different layer to that performance, because I was just focused on, you know, him post blip getting his family back and kind of mourning Natasha. But you're right, that whole period, and I think you said it was rush, shoehorn in whatever to Endgame. He had, I don't know how long he was Ronin, but he's also probably having to deal with having had compartmentalized that entire episode to put it in the deepest, darkest locked door in the back of his soul that he could find. But that door has been kicked open with the reemergence of the costume. And now, you know, when he's asking Kate, did anybody see you in this thing? Because the degree to which he went crazy and just killed a bunch of people, and those people who, yes, they were probably all bad guys, but those bad guys probably had families. Who knows how many, you know, orphans he made from those actions, no matter how noble he thought he was being. You know, that
and
could
to
really
get to be the family man with his bill taken care of at a Chinese restaurant.
Right. That's now I'm getting chills now thinking about that scene and what else he could be going through his mind. I do want to say about the LARP scene really quick, because we're coming up on the hour here. Mark, to what you and I were talking about just a little bit ago with the kind of inside baseball or inside comics kind of thing, I didn't quite care for the LARP scene. It was all right. I thought it was kind of charming. It was a nice little oasis of comedy in the middle of this, because he's just like, I'm not going to expend any energy, because if I do, I'm going to murder somebody on accident. But the guy that he wins back the Ronin costume from,
Grills.
He's Grills. Now, that was a big surprise to me. Now, Mark's like, what the hell's a Grills? It's a character in this Hawkeye collection who's a very different character and does very different things. But when well, yeah, he does. But when that character says, I'm Grills, I was intrigued. I'm like, okay, are we just never going to see him again? Is it just kind of a nod to like, hey, remember this from the comic? Or is it going to be a character that is going to play a similar role, small in Clint's life, but ultimately significant to where his story goes?
We'll see.
That's an IMDb search right there.
They did this before. They've done this kind of thing before with and the character name is escaping me, but there is a character they introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier who in the comics would eventually become Falcon while Falcon was Captain America.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember his... What was that?
Was it Elijah?
Yeah.
No, Elijah.
No. That was Isaiah.
It was a soldier.
Who's John Walker's second buddy there?
No, that guy died. It's
no,
the guy in the beginning. It's the guy in the beginning that is like looking up the stuff and he gets his butt kicked. I seriously can't remember his name. I don't know why, but like that's one where it's kind of like if you had read the comics, you're like, oh, that's the guy that's going to be Falcon someday. They don't really like
the guy who's repairing his shoe, the guy who's repairing his wings. That guy.
Yeah, exactly. And he shows up in a couple of scenes here and there. That's kind of like what I think they might be doing with Grills. It's kind of like, hey, here's a nice little note for the comic people. It is technically in canon. Maybe we'll get to it someday. Maybe not.
Yeah.
No big deal. It doesn't affect the story.
Right, and that's the thing is when I saw that, I was like, that was really surprising. I didn't feel like, oh, really? It's a throwaway, or they're making that guy Grills. I was interested. I'm like, what could they do with this character? It could be a reference, and I might forget about that he was even in the series by the end of episode 6, or it could be something really poignant and fun.
Joaquin Torres was the name of the character from Falcon Winter Soldier.
There you go.
Yeah.
But Clayton English, who plays Grills, is listed for all 6 episodes of IMDb.
Oh, is he really?
But so is Florence Pugh. I mean,
Go by IMDb.
Warren says 4.
Did you search for an end credits after any of these?
I did not.
I found myself just going through, like, just mousing over the end of the playtime,
mousing around,
making sure I didn't mess anything.
No, I didn't see anything. No stingers.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, or there wasn't something that was like a blinking you miss it within the credit scene.
Well, David is usually our end credits watch guy, and typically, if I'm right, we're like halfway through to like almost the end of these series by the time they start getting this really stinger heavy. Mark, I want you to jump in here, and we're gonna wrap it up in just a second.
I just want to go off of what William was saying and what everybody else is kind of saying. It is interesting to see how they've handled the trauma, because if you look at the way they deal with Hawkeye, and if you go by just MCU now, his whole Ronin angle, his coping with it in a different way than Winter Soldier, but they have a very parallel character as far as in the context of the movies that I've seen, in that they've both done bad things. Now Ronin, he was killing bad guys, but he was still mass murdering even if who knows if it was just a pickpocket in the Yakuza. You're in the Yakuza, I'm killing you. You know what I mean? But they're dealing with it in different ways in which, Winter Soldier was trying to address it up front. And you feel like Barton has gone through like the steps and he's trying to just move on, and he can't. He's at the urinal or whatever, and it says Thanos was right. And he does that wonderful. Renner is fantastic in this. I'm loving Renner in this series of his portrayal. He just does that little nod, like, and then
he was just thinking that was a critique of the play.
That could be. But at the same time, later on with the LARP thing, he does give a great nod then to where he's like, I fought Thanos. And he's sitting, but it's the way he said it. It's like you feel like he has dealt with his baggage and he's tried to move on. Whereas, Winter Soldier, when we see him, he's still dealing with his baggage in maybe not necessarily the best way. And Barton's like, I don't even want to be remembered. I was an Avenger if I can afford it. I just want to go with my kids. And then you get the suit showing up. And it's just an interesting parallel, I thought, that kind of flipped the switch when William mentioned it, that, these two characters are actually kind of parallel in many ways, but they're handling it differently. And I find that part really fascinating.
I like that he has to essentially fight himself in the LARPing scene because he's fighting Ronan. So.
I do enjoy how he also, they're kind of addressing how maybe he's not the most popular Avenger. People don't know about him. And there's that little bit where he's like, well, there was the Ant-Man scene during the Captain America musical, and then there was the scene in the clips online, I believe, where he's walking down the street with
Times Square.
He's walking down the street with Kate, and then she's saying, your problem is branding, because they see a girl on the side of what kind of looks like Hollywood Boulevard in every one of their costumes, and he's like, that's not even me, that's Katniss Everdeen. There's a girl with a bow and arrow there. And I kind of like how they address that, and they kind of attach it to his trauma, where we're like, we never really think about Hawkeye as a character. And I like how there's 4 episodes where finally there's like a Disney show where it's like, I like it when they're just talking and there's not things exploding in my face every 10 minutes. And, we'll get those payoffs, towards the end. But
it's coming.
For now, it's good to know a little more about this character, who he is. I just started reading a comic per the suggestions amongst you guys in here, and I know that there's like a point in there where he's kind of an alcoholic and he's like he's not able to handle his life, and I think maybe that'll be the beginning of the next episode.
Just make sure that's Green Arrow though. No, I'm kidding.
Or Iron Man.
No,
it takes alcohol to work in the season.
It's all of them. They all
Bullseye.
They all get hammered. In the Avengers.
Ian, I promised I won't go long. I just wanted to pin something in that. I do think it's funny that everyone talks about how the MCU is formula, and they want it to be different. And then we get Eternals and we get this, which really dive deep into character issues. They dive deep into character traumas, character problems that they're suffering in everyday life. And people are like, well, wait, that sucks. I want the formula back. It's like, they're giving you what you want. Like, this is a show that so many people have told me, they're like, it was boring. I just want more action. I'm like, this is character. This is what we've been screaming about for, a lot of you guys have been screaming about for years now. Like, you want more character. So this is what you're getting, and now you're rejecting it.
Well, I kind of agree with that. I feel like a lot of the MCU movies have been like the splash page comics, like the really action oriented, they're whiz bang blockbuster movies. But this particular, the first couple episodes of Hawkeye remind me of reading the comics where not the filler issues necessarily, but the ones where that is just pages and pages of characters like talking or solving mysteries or like getting into, kind of low key adventures. I haven't read Bendis in probably a decade, but yes, I do remember. Jesus Christ. It was just called, like 32 pages of word balloons. But all right. So Elliot, I'm going to give you the last word.
Get it. Bendis had an entire issue where the Avengers did nothing but eat Chinese food and talk. Yeah. It was an entire issue.
Avengers
sitting around and talking.
They didn't know avenging.
He was prescient because there's like 62 of those comics on the stands now. But anyhow, I am going to cut it there, I think. Did we miss anything in episodes 1 and 2?
Pay David Aja. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Go for it. Well, let's get a petition going.
Where's E-Man? He can do this.
E-Man's
Joe
Jordan.
Where's
E-Man? Yeah.
I actually E-Man's time to shine. Petition master. Let's see him do it.
Can we pay Jim Starlin too while we're at it? Because
Joe Jordan.
Yeah, hold on one second. I just want to say we'll get E-Man to rework his petition, recast T'Challa with David Aja.
That'll work.
Okay.
Repay Aja.
Thanks for an informative episode. I wasn't sure how things were going to transpire with 8 individuals. Wow. But you all made it work very well. Great job. Thank you. I thought he was talking about the Eternals for a second. But
the pay's not great, but, you know.
How dare you?
I will say, Mark, when you texted me and asked me if that was Harry Styles at the end of the Eternals, I felt that was the youngest I have felt in years.
I'm the fat elf voiced by Patton Oswalt.
This is accurate.
Did you guys? Did any of the diehard fans, not the movie, but diehard Marvel fans, notice in the first couple of minutes of the first episode the deep cut, and it has to do with a link to West Coast Avenger character Tigra?
Oh,
I missed it.
So her friend who was watching her, like
Greer, right?
Greer. Yeah, Greer. I think her name is Greer Garson, I think, or Greer Larson or something. That was Tigra's name in real life. So maybe she'll have a friend who turns into a tiger woman. Who knows?
Is she involved in Young Avengers as well, or just
no?
Because I was going to say they have most of the Young Avengers.
Yeah, I was going to say almost all the Young Avengers have been introduced already.
Pretty much. Trying to get the 2 Wanda kids reanimated, but good luck.
Yeah. Well, we could talk literally about this all night, but we've got 4 more episodes, gang, to discuss the lore and the draw of this show.
Tis
so
the season.
Yes, it really is. And I just want to say, I'm not going to reintroduce everybody because that'll take another 45 minutes. But I do love everybody. Thank you for joining. This is an open invitation. You can come back and we'll do 8, for as long as you want, or 2 or 3 or whatever. I just love hanging out with you, gang.
I'm Elliot Serrano.
You're in, Will.
Yeah, you're in, Will.
What about the watch?
Channels?
You've made your appearance. Will, you are officially an Earth's Mightiest Critic.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Woo! All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We
Doesn't
will be
take
back.
much.
Oh, there's the bell.
How many angels just got wings?
We have a bell?
Yeah, of course. It's part of the show,
You got to listen to the Cinephile History
that's
podcast.
The bell. That's the bell.
That's the bell right here.
Yeah, it's mystifying. Anyway, but we will be back next week talking about episode 3 of Hawkeye on Disney Plus. Check it out Wednesday, and then well, I've got like a hot almond and a hot cashew, but a hot date is good too. Anyway, thank you everybody. Be sure and like and subscribe to the Kicking the Seat podcast and YouTube channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Check the link down below. Not right now because I got to get everybody's information, but soon when this episode goes up, you'll be able to follow everybody's work. They're all fabulous people. Thanks, gang. I love you. With that, we're going to say this has been Hawk Talk, and I got to come up with a cute outro catchphrase.
Yeah, how about here's a catchphrase. What about the watch? I want to go back to the damn watch.
Arrow out of this one.
I'm not gonna